Good morning, good afternoon, and thank you for joining Youth Thrive at the Center for the Study of Social Policy for our first Youth Thrive Alive Forum for 2023. We welcome you back. If this isn't your first time, we welcome you back. If this is your first time joining us for Youth Thrive Alive Forum, we want to say thank you, and we look forward to your partnership and joining us in future Youth Thrive Alive forums and other Youth Thrive events. Today's forum title is to activate new tools for 2023 and beyond. So we'll explore a couple of tools and share those with you. So while you're here, I think my colleague Francie dropped in the chat. If you would tell us one thing, drop in the chat, one thing you're looking forward to this year in your work to support young people. One thing you're looking forward to this year in working to support young people. And so Youth Thrive, for many of you know that Youth Thrive is both a research-informed framework and an initiative. It's a framework on youth well-being, looking to cover the entire span of adolescence, ages 9 through 26 and it's for all young people, not just those involved in intervening public systems like child welfare or juvenile justice. Youth Thrive is also an initiative designed to change policy, practice, and services in systems, in programs, in community. And then the goal for Youth Thrive is to change how adults view, work with, and support young people. So your role in the lives of young people is important, and how you interact with them is important, and how you view them is extremely important. So thank you for joining us for this first forum of Youth Thrive. Our agenda today will have multiple speakers from the Youth Thrive network. We will cover our theory of change and values. We will share an exciting set of videos, animated videos that explains more about the protective and promotive factors, as well as Youth Thrive. We'll cover our social connections module and resilience, cognitive, and social emotional competence modules. The big part of this, I think, of this particular forum is around the social connection module, brand new. And then we'll give you a peek into the Youth Thrive survey tutorial video as well. So thank you for joining us, and I will turn it over to my colleague, Casey Getty, I believe.
Yes, thanks, Leonard. Good afternoon or good morning, wherever you all are joining us from. My name is Casey Getty, and I'm a senior program analyst here at the Center for the Study of Social Policy, working on our Youth Thrive initiative. And so I'll be going over our new theory of change. So here on your screen, you may, some of you who have been old partners of Youth Thrive, you'll see our old theory of change. And if you can go over to the next slide, Fatima. In this last year, we actually updated our theory of change to this graphic. And I know you all are probably looking at it like, well, where are the words? But don't worry. We actually do have a one-pager that will be up on our website to help explain this new theory of change graphic for you all. But while I'm here with you all today, I'll go through it with you. And so this theory of change really takes you on a journey and really talks about the Youth Thrive theory. And so you'll see to the left of your screen, we're using a garden analogy now to explain the theory of change. And to the left of your screen, you'll see the gardener who is pouring seeds into the ground, which represents the staff or other caring people that work directly with a young person. The seeds actually that they are planting are young people themselves, ready to grow, change, and thrive, etc. And when we plant seeds, they really need strong soil to take root and to grow. And so you'll see at the bottom of your screen, it'll say the key values where the soil is, because we need plants need a strong foundation in order to grow. And the key values are the foundation of the protective and the promotive factors. And it's what the protective and promotive factors are built on, and it's how they guide us in our work. And so also for seeds or for plants to grow, they need sunlight. And so we talk about in Youth Thrive how we need to increase the protective and promotive factors to promote healthy growth and well-being for all young people. And if you're new with us today, the 5 protective and promotive factors are youth resilience, social connections, knowledge of adolescent development, concrete supports in times of need, cognitive and social emotional competence are the 5 protective and promotive factors. So we need to increase those. However, what we can't do, you'll see in the middle of the screen, is we can't wipe away risk factors, right? And so risk factors are represented by the storm and the conditions that increase the likelihood of poor outcomes. And those poor outcomes can look like psychological stressors or lack of supportive relationships with peers and adults and family, lack of opportunities for positive growth and development, and unsafe, unstable, and inequitable environments. And so, although plants do need water to grow, we do know that too much water can drown them out. And so you'll see the greenhouse is the shelter that doesn't take the risk factors away, because we can't really take them away. They still exist, but if we do increase the protective and the promotive factors, we can start to reduce them, right? And so you'll see the greenhouse in the middle. It's protecting the plants. It provides protection and reduces the impact of, the torrential rain and the damaging winds that is going around the plants, which can also represent those high stressful conditions and events that happen for young people. And so again, when we increase the protective and promotive factors and reduce risk factors, we are actually able to achieve dynamic outcomes for young people. And that can really look like physically and emotionally healthy, hopeful, optimistic, compassionate, and they're curious. They're able to form and sustain caring, committed relationships, and they're also able to be successful in school, at work, and able to serve their community and society. And so at the end, to your right, you'll see seeds that have grown into beautiful flowers, and that are young people are able to grow into who they want to be. And so that is our new theory of change. Again, we have this available, and we'll have the 1-pager available on our website as well. And so you might have heard me mention our key values, which is new for us today as well. And so I'm going to pass it on to Anna, who's going to talk about those.
Hi, everyone. So great to see everyone here today. My name is Anna. I'm an intern here at CSSP. And today I'll be going over our key values. So over the past few months, the Youth Thrive team created a set of key values that capture what drives our Youth Thrive initiative. If we think of the Youth Thrive framework and the protective and promotive factors as the how, the what of Youth Thrive, then we can think of the values as the how. Youth Thrive has an extremely effective set of guiding premises that are a critical part of our Youth Thrive training. And while these premises work well in the training context, they are typically implemented by practitioners. So we felt the need to curate a list of key values for a broader audience, such as policymakers, advocates, community leaders, and especially young people. So we are not retracting or changing the premises because they still play an extremely vital role in our framework. But a major addition through the key values is naming and highlighting the importance of youth voice and lived experience. We were also very intentional about adding the commitment to anti-racism, the component of building relationships in the context of families and communities, and emphasizing the importance of identity development, including culture, ethnicity, gender identity, sexual orientation, and disabilities. And we feel the guiding premises and the key values can both work together to inform our work and communicate our beliefs to a broader audience.
Thanks, Anna. I'm Martha Raymond. I am a senior associate here at the Center for the Study of Social Policy. It is so great to see some familiar names on the chat. It's so exciting. Really good to see all of you. So I am here to talk about something new with Youth Thrive. In the spirit of Youth Thrive Alive, we decided that videos may be a good way to introduce Youth Thrive to folks who aren't as familiar, and also for tools for all of us to use. So, we know people are really used to now working with visual tools. Thank you, TikTok. Thank you, YouTube. So with the help of some young professionals, we developed 3 separate videos. The first describes what Youth Thrive, the initiative is, and explains it in a very short, sort of summarized way. The second talks about what you heard Casey describing, the Youth Thrive framework. It briefly reviews those 5 protective and promotive factors she listed. And then the third video focuses on recognizing young people or emerging adults as assets and appreciating their authentic selves, as you all do, and the role of adults and communities in young people's healthy development. So we had those 3 separate videos. We decided to also merge them into one in case that was helpful for some of our training. So we have them as 3 separate or one merged one, and they are available to all of you in whichever form you would like on our website. And now we're going to show you the merged version so you can see each of the 3. But you'll know that they were 3 merged into one. So you can use them how you want to introduce people to Youth Thrive, or as part of trainings, or whatever you think works best. So I'm going to let Fatima show the video.
Adolescence and early childhood are critical periods of development. With the right opportunities and supports, they can be periods of creativity, self-discovery, and adventure. New research about adolescent development shows us that the idea of the troubled teen is outdated and needs to be replaced with the idea that adolescents are promising young adults in progress. Youth Thrive is a research-informed approach that promotes healing, positive growth, supportive relationships, and helps young people identify and meet their needs. Policies and programs must be anti-racist to help support young people's healthy development and well-being. And Youth Thrive was built with this in mind. When families, educators, system partners, and youth workers understand adolescent development and healing from trauma, it improves how they interact with young people and their families. Taken together, the 5 Youth Thrive protective and promotive factors help young people thrive, even in the face of risk and adversity. To learn more about Youth Thrive, visit cssp.org. The Youth Thrive protective and promotive factors are 5 essential elements that research has shown to help young people thrive, even in the face of adversity. 1. Knowledge of adolescent development. When parents, supportive adults, and young people themselves understand adolescence as a unique period of growth and change, they're better at figuring out what adolescents need. 2. Youth resilience. Young people are more likely to thrive if they have the tools to manage stress and challenges. 3. Concrete support in times of need. In order to thrive, a young person needs basic necessities like food and safe housing. Adults need to help young people learn how to advocate for themselves and expect to be treated with dignity when they do. 4. Social connections. Having trusting relationships with peers, adults, and communities help young people develop their skills and their sense of belonging. And 5, cognitive and social emotional competence. When they have the skills and knowledge they need, young people form an independent identity, which leads to a satisfying adulthood. The 5 protective and promotive factors are a pathway to well-being and can help young people get the support they need to thrive. To learn more, visit cssp.org.
Adolescence and emerging adulthood are times of great growth and change. These changes can lead adults to make negative assumptions, which can deny young people opportunities, voice, agency, and power. Appreciating and understanding young people means recognizing their authentic selves, seeing them for who they are and not who adults want them to be, and making sure that adults listen and seek their input and ideas. That means providing young people the room they need to become their full selves, room to grow from mistakes, room to dream and create, room to just have fun and be. Families, communities, organizations, and society all have central roles in young people's development. When adults understand and commit to building Youth Thrive's 5 protective and promotive factors, young people move to the forefront of decision-making. Their voices are heard, they feel a sense of belonging, and they have opportunities and experiences that fit their unique needs. With the right support, youth can realize their dreams. To learn more and to access Youth Thrive resources, visit css.org/our-work/project/youth-thrive.
Those are great videos, aren't they? So my name is Julie Radlauer, and I am here to talk to you today about the Social Connections module that was created for Youth Thrive. Just a little bit about myself. I'm the CEO of an organization called Collectively, and I've been in the field for 25 plus years. I am a doctor of public health and a licensed mental health counselor, and I've worked mostly in the human services, behavioral health, child welfare, probation, education fields. I was researching social connections and social support as part of my doctoral study, and I stumbled across Youth Thrive, and I had just the privilege of attending one of the trainings with Leonard. And during the training, it was discussed that some of the different modules or protective factors had breakout modules, and the social connections one was one of the protective factors that did not have a breakout module. So I kind of put my head together with Leonard and said I would be willing to share my research with Youth Thrive. And so I'm very grateful that I have the opportunity to share this with you today. In my professional world, I do a lot of training and coaching and technical assistance. And so I feel really blessed to be able to share the research. The study that I conducted was a national research study, and I interviewed African-American families of children with mental health conditions from around the nation and talked to them about their current support systems that they receive from formal mental health treatment services. And the results were basically that families prefer to have their needs met in non-formal ways, using things like social support and social capital and social connections. And so that research informed what I'm going to share with you today. So during the module, and so it's designed as a 3-hour module, during the module, you'll be learning about these different objectives. We're not going to do all of these today. I'm just sharing with you what the objectives of the module are, because we're only doing just a quick little preview, a sneak peek, if you will, of what the module includes. So participants will learn about protective promotive factors. They will understand social support and social connection, learn to use, or you guys might already be familiar with, the Youth Thrive tool. And so the assessment tool, but we're using the social connections piece of that tool in the actual module. We'll practice skills and learn new techniques about social connections and social support. Then we're also going to talk about social capital and learn some techniques around social capital. And then the module really ends with some reflection on how we ourselves can begin to incorporate some of what we've learned into our own practice for ourselves, as well as for the youth that we're working with. So the training is designed as a 3.5-hour, very interactive training. It's a combination of lecture and hands-on tools and interactive learning techniques. There are 3 videos embedded into the module, and there are 10 different activities around social connection, social support, and social capital. It ends with, you get handouts, and the way that it's designed is there's a PowerPoint presentation, and then there's an accompanying participant manual. And we've also created a train the trainer component. So all of these will be available on the website. So the training really starts with helping people recognize and understand why social support is so important, and why social connections are so important. And I think that that's important because you hear, especially nowadays, you hear so much about social connections. There's actually several new books out about it just very recently. But what we don't really back into is like the why behind it, why it's so important. And there's a lot of science that backs up why social connections are so important. And so in the training, we help people recognize that you actually live longer when you have social connections. And the research demonstrates you live 3.67 years longer when you have social connections in your life. Social connections also lower your stress because it allows you to bring in endorphins and like dopamine. By being with people and having those connections. You have better cardiovascular health when you have social connections in your life. These are all scientific research studies, right? So there's increased immunity, decreased risk of substance use and mental health conditions. You actually think faster when you have social connections in your life because you're forced to be thinking and communicating and speaking more often. And so that makes your brain, your brain kind of like utilize work as a muscle, if you will. And then obviously you have better psychological and physical well-being when you have social connections in your life. So that's kind of the magic formula about why it's really important to help youth build social connections in their lives. So this is an activity that is one of the activities in the module. We're going to do it a little bit differently today because we're in webinar format, but normally you would be doing this kind of like as a show of hands almost. So you get a sense, but I'm just going to ask you to kind of fire up your fingers, if you will, for putting information into the chat. And just let me walk you through this brief activity. So I want you to think about in your own personal life, right? I'm not talking about the life of one of the youth that you work with, but in your own personal life, I would like for you to think about a time when you were really struggling. I'll just give you a second to do that, a quick second. I think we all have those times in our lives. For many people, it's been over the past couple of years. What I would like for you to do now is I want you to think about how did you get through that time? How is it that you got through that difficult time and you're here today, happy to be in this webinar, and just think about it. You don't have to type it into the chat yet, but just think about that for a moment. And I'm just going to read you a series of questions or mention, a series of questions. And I want you to think about, did this help me or didn't this help me? I want you to think about, did you get through a time when you were really struggling in your life through the assistance of your friends? Okay. Some of you might say yes, and some of you might say no. Now think about, did you get through a time in your life when you were really struggling through the assistance of your family? Again, some people will say yes, and some people will say no. Another one is, did you get through a time when you were really struggling through the assistance of your faith? Okay. And now I'm going to ask you, did you get through a time when you were really struggling with the assistance of a paid professional with an advanced degree? And so I've done this activity thousands of times at this point. And the results when you're in person is most people raise their hands for they got through with their family, they got through it with their faith, they got through it with their friends. And then there's always a few people in the audience that will say they did get through with this assistance of a paid professional with an advanced degree. But for many people, it's kind of this aha moment that, because most of the people who I'm speaking to are paid professionals. It's this aha moment that, like, wait a second, I get through my biggest challenges with my family, faith, and friends, but we wonder, like, and we kind of have to ask ourselves, why is it that we think that the youth that we're working with can only get through their biggest challenges with us as paid professionals with advanced degrees? Okay. And so that's just a very tangible way to help people recognize that, in fact, there really is a very important value in the access to having access to family, faith, and friends, because the majority of us get through our biggest challenges that way. And then the goal then becomes, how do we help the youth that we're working with build those solid connections of faith, friends, and family so that they can sustainably get through their biggest challenges as they move forward? Thank you, guys. I see all the chats in there, so thank you so much. During the module, obviously, we talk about what social connections are, right? So social connections are the experience of feeling close and connected to others. And so for many of our youth, social connections is something that they struggle with. Well, even pre-COVID, many of our youth were struggling with social connections. Some people blame social media, and social media is definitely a contributing factor. And also just society in general. 25 years ago, most people had 3 close connections in their life. And the research demonstrates that today, most people have 2 close connections in their life. And that was just 25 years ago. So our society is such that people move, we don't maintain those close connections. And then when you can do something like jump on a Zoom or connect with somebody over texting or social media, you lose that ability to have that face-to-face. Right. And so many of the youth that we work with, they didn't really learn those skills. They've grown up with social media and texting. And so they didn't learn those social connection skills. And we have to actually teach them how to do that. Because if you remember a couple of slides back, there are amazing mental and physical health outcomes to having social connections. So it's important for us to recognize the value in it so we can help the youth that we're working with see the value in it too. This is an example of one of the tools that is shared in the module. So this is an ecogram, and many people have seen ecograms. Typically in a therapeutic tool, it's used to look at your kind of family, look at your family tree, so to speak, but here we're using it differently. The way that you would use this tool is you would say you're working with a youth and they're feeling isolated or depressed or lonely, right? We would put in that kind of center lime green circle, we would put the youth's name and what's the issue, what's the need that we're trying to support them through. And so for our purposes, we're going to say lonely or isolated. And then you go around with the youth, right? So this is a conversation that you have with them. And in each of the different colored circles, you're going to ask a question about a different domain in their life. So for example, in the red circle, let's start with the red, and most of the youth that we work with are in school. And so I might say to a youth, when you're at school, if you're feeling lonely or isolated, is there one person that you would turn to, one person that you could talk to that could help you get through this when you're really struggling? And they might say like, yes, it was a teacher or my cousin or a guidance counselor or somebody in the lunchroom, right? And we'll put that person's name down in the red square or red circle. Then you move on to the orange and you say, okay, in your home where you live, if you're feeling lonely or isolated, is there one, who do you turn to? And they might say, my mom or my sister or my dog, or they might say nobody, right? And then you go to the yellow and you say maybe in your neighborhood, right, in your community. If you're feeling lonely or isolated, is there somebody you would talk to? Go, yeah, a couple blocks down. Oh, I have a friend that lives a couple blocks down. I could go talk to that person. Great, let's write that person's name, neighbor Mike, down there. Then you go to the green circle, the Kelly green circle, and say, okay, in your faith community, if they're involved in faith, you might say, is there one person when you're feeling lonely or isolated you could talk to? And they might say, yes, the youth pastor. Great, we'll write the youth pastor's name down. Then you go to the blue circle and you could say, on social media, if you're feeling lonely or isolated, is there one person you reach out to? And they might say yes, they might say no. And so different people have different domains in their life. Some people may have faith, some won't. Some people might be in extracurricular activities and you can use that as a resource, some won't. So this is very individualized, but by the end of this activity, what you and the youth will realize together is either one, they have more support than they realized, which is a beautiful thing, right? And then the trick is to help them reach out and connect with those supports, right? The other thing that they could possibly realize is that they don't have connections in their life, right? If all of these circles are blank or they can't identify somebody, then you can recognize that that's somebody that really needs some support to build connections, because many of the youth that we're working with, they're struggling with depression or anxiety. And just ask yourself, if in every aspect of your life, you didn't have somebody to talk to, if you went to school every day and you didn't feel like there was one person you were looking forward to seeing, how would you feel? Probably depressed or anxious, right? And so we have to recognize the value of these social connections and how they can improve people's mental health functioning. Another important aspect of the curriculum is focusing on social capital. And social capital is really looking at those social connections, at social support, but at a larger community level. Because what happens is I can have support with one person, with my neighbor, but then if I want to get out into the community to do something and build broader connections, I can't do that, right? There might not be, a sporting club or a team that I can join, or there might not be a local park where I can go and work out and exercise and meet people and convene. And so having these connections to the broader community builds our self-esteem. It gives us a sense of identity. We have shared understandings with people. We create norms and values. And important values of social capital are building trust and cooperation and reciprocity. And all of that is really important if, in fact, we want to help people get grounded and connected within their communities. And if you think about in your own life, do you have a faith community that you go to in your neighborhood? Or is there a church group or a team through the park? Or do you have a book club with your neighbors or something like that? We build those connections, but the network of the people in my book club is social capital, right? So I can have the individual level connections, which is really important. And then I also need to build those broader connections because that gives me access to people, to places, to opportunities. And for many of our youth, that's what's missing in their life is they don't have that access. So part of the module is designed to help recognize the value of social capital. And then we have some actual tangible tools to help people understand how to actually build social capital within their communities. And this is a great activity to do with you. So next slide, please. Understanding the benefits of social capital, right? So having those relationships gives us access to resources. It also improves our psychological well-being. It helps us build those networks that we're looking for, and it teaches us new skills like communicating and learning how to support each other and accepting support, right? So those healthy parent-child interactions are often role modeled through social capital. This is an example of a tool that's used during the Youth Thrive Social Connections module, and this is called asset mapping. And this is just a screenshot of an example of asset mapping, but this is not, this picture is just a screenshot, right? So basically what I love about this tool is that you're really getting the youth involved in it because first of all, they're really good on the computer, right? Or their phone. And second, they're more comfortable with, or very comfortable with, kind of Google Maps. And so what we would do is say we're working with a youth who says, okay, I want to get a job and I want to work, I want to be, I want to do childcare, right? I want to work somehow in the childcare arena. So we would then type in their zip code and identify what are all the childcare centers or opportunities to provide childcare within their community. Right. And it will literally, put the pin on the map to show you where they are. And then one by one, you can explore that as an opportunity to identify, do we know somebody that works at that childcare center? Do we know somebody who brings their children to that childcare center? Is that childcare center right in my neighborhood where I could walk there? Right. So we identify what are the available resources and help connect youth to those available resources. Now, this can also work in a way as say you're wanting to work with a youth who wants to get a job in a garage, right? Working as a mechanic. And you do this and you realize there's no garages in our community, right? There's lots of gas stations, but there are no places where a youth could learn how to, work in a garage or be a mechanic. Well, then that's something that we need to help to develop, right? And then you guys that are, and then finally, you guys that are working, as facilitators for Youth Thrive, when you find out that, say, I have several youth that are interested in childcare, well, then it's your responsibility to reach out to local childcare centers and make that connection, right? So you're going to explain to the childcare center, we have several youth who might be interested in an internship, potentially getting a job. This is what our organization does. And we find that a lot of our youth are interested in it. Let's develop a formal partnership, so that every time I have a youth that expresses that, I can get them over to you and you can have somebody who will then do extra babysitting or whatever it is, cleaning up or feeding the youth or feeding the children, whatever it is, right? But building those formal relationships creates that social capital in communities, which is really what we're looking for. So the more that you guys are able to recognize what are the needs or interests of the youth that we're working with, and then what are potential community partners that we can make those formal connections with, so that we can build the capital and the resources and the connections and the networks of the youth that we're working with. So there are several tools that do this in the module. And so this is just, I wanted to share with you just my information. If you looked on it, I spend most of my energy focusing on LinkedIn, and I do very frequently share resources and tools and videos on LinkedIn. So I would encourage you, to connect with me there, but this is my other information as well. It's all about connections. So that's kind of what I do. And I wanted to share this information with you. And so Francie just put something into the chat about how she'll have this information available. And then the last slide is, I just strongly encourage you to be bold, be brave, and be kind as you move forward, helping people build social connections.
Thank you, Julie.
Absolutely.
So in addition to in addition to the new social connections module that we developed with Julie, and she just showcased, we also have 2 other modules that's available on our website. So we have first, the resilience module that was developed with Jean Carpenter Williams from the University of Oklahoma Outreach National Resource Center for Youth Services. In this module, it provides youth workers with tools and activities that are easy to implement to support resilience skills. The second module that's still available on our website is the cognitive and social emotional development module. It has information and tools that youth workers can use to support young people in developing cognitive and social emotional skills. And the cognitive and social emotional development module, there's a trainer guide, participant manual, and PowerPoint slides, all available on our website, and you can download it. And one way that you can use these modules is incorporating it in professional development workshops, so that the youth workers in your organization can have it to help youth build these skills. Another thing that we still have available on our website is the Youth Thrive survey. But the new thing is that we have now a tutorial video. So first, to just give a little bit of a refresher on the Youth Thrive survey. So earlier today, Casey and Martha went over the protective and promotive factors. We saw it also in the animation videos. So the Youth Thrive survey, it helps to measure the presence, strength, and growth of the protective factors. And organizations and agencies, once you make an account, the young people that you work with can use the self-assessment. The self-assessment is available in both English and Spanish, and it takes about 15 minutes to complete. And for young people, it is easy for them to also access it by a mobile device. So the way that the tutorial video actually came about is that the state of Jersey, who recently replaced their life skills assessment with the Youth Thrive survey, made a request for us to create a tutorial video that is a visual and an easy walkthrough on how to make an account, access the data, and analyze the data. And so we made the tutorial video, and now it's available on our website. So in case you need a visual to help you do a walkthrough. In terms of how many states are using the Youth Thrive survey, so we have survey users from 42 US states. So we have a broad reach currently. We have a broad reach currently, and we'll make sure that you get the link to the Youth Thrive survey and also the tutorial video. Francie will be dropping it into the chat. And I'll pass it over to Susan.
Hi, everybody. First of all, I want to thank everybody for joining us today, and particularly appreciate our panelists, with a special shout out to Julie. I mean, it's always wonderful when someone who's doing work in the field, who shares, our beliefs and our values about what young people need, says, "Hey, wait a second, I could partner with you and develop some resources that would further your work, further my work." And we just really appreciate the partnership that Julie sort of stepped up for. So that, as everybody has mentioned, all of the resources that were showcased today, they're all on our website. They're all free for everybody to download, to use. And I just want to say that when Youth Thrive was launched around 10 years ago, our goal was to really make a difference in the lives of young people. We recognized the challenges that young people were facing, particularly those young people in our child welfare system, our juvenile justice system, young people who were really struggling in their lives. And our goal was to take what the research told us about what young people need and put it into practice, like get that information out, because what we know is that when young people have greater social connections, when they have greater understanding of their own development, when they are able to sort of address the challenges in their lives and move forward, when they have certain competencies, they are more likely to thrive. And so these tools, each one of them, is a vehicle of taking that information and putting it into practice, because it is up to the people who work with young people to really help them to maximize what we know is going to help them lead a productive and satisfying and successful life. So that's the purpose of that was the purpose of today's webinar, to sort of showcase that. We are very excited about not only the materials that we have, but also the year ahead and the activities that we have going on with Youth Thrive. I just saw a question about Youth Thrive for Youth. Casey has been leading a real effort to bring our training curriculum of Youth Thrive for youth to youth themselves, and we'll be doing a train the trainer training later in the spring. We've launched a community of practice that's going to be really figuring out how to take some of these tools and make the changes in their own practice with young people, and that will be launching as well. So stay tuned. We look forward to hearing from you. We look forward to hearing from you how these resources have been useful, what else you think would be useful to help you improve your work with young people. And again, we thank you for everything you do in support of helping young people to thrive. And with that, we're going to close out today's session. So thanks, everybody.